Seamus McGarvey, ASC BSC. I'll say this again. What a beautiful, 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 ethereal piece of work. Absolutely beautiful. Congratulations.
Thanks, Laurie. We had a lot of fun making it.
Yes. Well, we're lots to talk about. Stephen Daldry, Stephen Frears, Sam Taylor-Johnson, Neil Jordan, Oliver Stone, Joss Whedon, Lynn Ramsey, many amazing and often repeat directors that you've worked with, but one of your most regular collaborator, of course, is Joe Wright. How many projects have you worked with Joe now?
I think we've done 6 films, 6 features, and shorts, and some commercials, and lots of just fun times talking about stuff that never happened. So, as is always the case, I'm sure all of us in the audience know that syndrome of, you working towards something and then it doesn't happen. But the talking about it is always good. It gets the creative juices flowing, and we often weave ideas we've had about projects that never came to fruition into projects like this.
Absolutely. Joe said that this project was born out of the pandemic. Obviously, COVID had a big impact on everything. But how did Cyrano come to you as a proposition? When was that?
Well, COVID was kind of instrumental in it, because I was in Los Angeles, and I was prepping another film.
I think it was the last time we spoke.
Yes, that's right. And I caught COVID, and the country was shut down as well at that point. So the project I was working on got postponed indefinitely. I didn't know when it was going to kick off again. And then, the country opened up again. I came back to Sweden, actually, and then Joe rang me out of the blue and said, look, this has come up very quickly, this project, and would you be up for it? And of course, I jumped at the chance, because I live in Tuscany, and it was just a short hop down to Sicily. But the whole country was in lockdown. But that really was in our favour, fantastically, because there was this Baroque town of Noto where we shot the film. It was a really beautiful town in Sicily. And the whole place was ours. It was like a backlot, and that was just, we had the run of the place. So unfortunately, there were no restaurants open. There was no pubs or anything. But we were all sort of like a theatre troupe trapped on the island, but with the run of the place and no cars and no tourists, and it was just a joy to be so focused on something with nothing to think about really, but the film itself.
So was a decision to go straight to Sicily? Was that? I mean, how did that?
Yeah, I think we went. Yeah, we went in October. Yeah, we went maybe September and scouted, and we were shooting very quickly. I mean, there wasn't much to and fro, and this project just came out of the ether, and there we were, sort of prepping it, and it was a joy to do that, to do it sort of easefully, because the weather was beautiful. And we knew we wanted a sense of sort of veracity and realism to the film. So walking around these palazzos and streets and seeing it sort of as it was in the 1600s, because of the absence of tourists and people generally. A lot of Italians had left as well and gone other places or into their hills. But what was lovely was I was able to photograph during our scouts, and that became the visual key to the film, just photographing with my little Fuji camera and looking at the light, which, I mean, I moved to Italy sort of for the light in Tuscany, but it's very different. And late summer Sicilian light is absolutely exquisite, and especially in a town like this that has honey-coloured walls, and you get all this amazing sharp bounce, and the shadows are imbued with yolky warmth, and Joe and I were just like, yeah, that's the film, that's the look of the day. And then when we'd move into interiors in the palazzos, the owners would open up little shutters and let in half light, and Joe's like, take a photograph of that, that's how we'll do it. And just a shard of hot light hitting a back wall, and no other fill within the room was the guide to us. So the architecture of the town, city, and the light, Sicilian light, sort of gifted us our direction.
I mean, it's like a love letter to that light. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't go wrong, really. I mean, if you turn the camera on,
it shoots itself, doesn't it?
it does. It kind of does. I mean, I'm not diminishing the cinematographic aspect of it, and of course, we thought about shots and the sequence of shots.
Of course.
But the sort of the tone and the timbre of the light came from Italy. It came from the place. Beautiful.
Stunning. And obviously, you've got a great love for Italy. How long have you lived there?
12 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. So yeah. You're welcome anytime, Laurie.
Oh, we'll speak later.
All of you, in fact.
You said the prep was very quick, and it was just.
It was. I think I had 4 weeks. Four weeks prep, and we just went there. Joe had obviously been thinking about it for an awful long time, and Haley and Peter had done the theatre play before in Connecticut, so there was already a lot of thought had gone into it, and Joe had been trying to get the film off the ground for a long time. So there was no absence of prior thought. So when I came into it, we were up to speed. And also when I was in my COVID chair in Los Angeles, I was having regular Zoom meetings. So there was a lot of kind of extracurricular prep done, as is always the case, where we were able to just talk through ideas and especially amongst ourselves with Sarah Greenwood, who's Joe's greatest collaborator, along with Jacqueline Duran, the costume designer. At Massimo Contini, all this thought was percolating through ahead of time and being distilled into Joe's final vision for the film.
So, as you say, Sarah was involved, and Katie Spencer set that. I mean, you've obviously worked with them.
Yes.
As well. I mean, how
they love you as well. They do. I know you did Rebecca with them. And
the thing with them is that they're so adept at this universe creation. I mean, and they just present you with this playground. Beautiful, beautiful stuff.
It is, and they. When I say we were working in real locations, obviously their hand is all over it. They really sort of intercept with the real, but with great taste and great imagination. So there are little things in here that are props that are aligned, but they sort of went into that room, Roxanne's room, and basically repaneled it and added silk to the walls of this crumbling palazzo, and everything in there. It's completely sort of renovated within a real space. But I had windows and 3 stories up to light through, so it was kind of tricky. But I just took my cue from natural light, and as long as I had one big light outside a window. And I remember Chris Menges always telling me, just put the actors by the window and you'll be right as rain, you'll be fine, and point your camera at the story.
Words of wisdom. That's
I just don't think of any other way of shooting now.
Yeah. Were there any? Did you use any references? I mean, was there something? I mean, obviously the coming together of art and costume, and then how did the kind of look develop?
Well, Joe always has a whole kaleidoscope of influences. So it can come from magazine tearings or from paintings. I mean, obviously there's a very overt reference to Watteau and Fragonard and the kind of the very flamboyant and pastely color style that came from those two painters. But honestly, the sort of feel of the place comes from the architecture, and even camera movement is dictated by our prior rehearsals and how the actors walk into a set and gravitate towards a window, as Chris Menges would have them do, or they get shunted towards the window. But we also had the great choreographer who we worked with before on Anna Karenina, Larby Cherkwoy, Sidi Larby Cherkwoy, and he gently choreographed even the most accidental and movement and even gestures. So somebody lifting a cigarette or lifting a pen, all those things were assiduously choreographed by Larby, and in concert with all of us. And it's funny, you know, I love music videos. I loved doing them when I was young. And there's something happens when sound, the symbiosis of camera, music, and actors together creates a kind of cohesiveness that I really love. And we had great fun doing that every letter, because, you know, we were chinographing the monitor, so we had the triptych already planned. And working with all the things I used to love doing when we were messing around in music videos, like flaring the camera and, you know, just creating editorial moments that Valerio Bonelli, the editor, could use to kind of go between the various trio of singers. So I love doing that and how that evolved, and thinking about how we started doing music videos, me and Joe, and sort of running with that. It was great. I've recently been doing a few musicals, weirdly. I think it's the zeitgeist. But there's something really lovely about that. And Joe loves playback on the day, whether it's the song itself or just to create an atmosphere. And it creates this kind of fluidity with the camera, and allows you to think about movement within the space, and it just gets everybody into a mood. You know, Joe picks a song that's thematic in some way, and it weaves us, stitches us into the film, into the story a little bit more. I love that, the way he works that way.
I mean, it's that interesting. You mentioned music videos, and I guess that's the sort of the new, that combination of narrative and music videos is what is that's the modern musical, isn't it? I guess. So do you, and as you said, you've done a couple of those now. Is it different from shooting narrative, or has it got some of that experimental excitement to it?
I mean, I worked on The Greatest Showman, which was very different stylistically, and it was more sort of in the Bollywood style, or the old sort of style of musical, like. With crane moves and operatic moves, and more like music video. Joe really wanted this to have a, you know, for the narrative and the dialogue to weave into the song. And the songs, that's why the National did the songs, because they have a conversational tone to them, you know, in the Overcome, when she's Roxanne's on the balcony, it's a conversation. So it's treated exactly like you would do any narrative scene. There's no kind of like, okay, now the dancers come on, and I mean, there is that moment in the street where Hayley's doing a kind of a Beyonce move, and there's a Steadicam shot coming back with her. But we tended to eschew that style of shooting and make it more naturalistic.
Yeah, they don't stand out, don't they? It's not like, oh, it's time for a song now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What was your biggest single concern aside from COVID? I mean, what were the challenge? I mean, or was it all COVID? You know, was it availability? Was it people, kit, and all sorts of things?
Yeah, well, all our crew were Italian, and except for Pete Robb, you know, and then the heads of the department. Mm-hmm. Peter Robertson was our brilliant operator, who was dragged to Sicily because he's such a key member of the team, and I love him so much. And his work is just, his hand is all over this film. His exquisite sense of composition and being alive to the moment. But we had a great crew, and we were in this bubble, effectively. Nobody could leave the island. I mean, we weren't actually allowed to leave the island. I couldn't even on weekends go home to Tuscany. We were sort of locked there. So there's a real sense of us being sort of filmmakers, on sort of some weird kind of desert camp or some a reality TV show that making a film. But there were challenges.
Producer's dream. That.
Yeah, well, it was good. You can't go. You know, it added a lot of focus because we couldn't go out at night. We couldn't get steaming on the weekends, although we occasionally got smuggled in some stuff. But we we had real focus, and that was really interesting. We were all living in the same little town, and Joe and I and the cast were all living in this one hotel. So the weekday sort of segged beautifully into the weekend, and we were always having conversations about stuff. So it just felt like we were on the movie from day one till we wrapped, and we wrapped on the volcano on Mount Etna, because we were lulled into this false sense of security, thinking, "Oh, isn't Italy lovely? And isn't the light so gorgeous?" And I love Italy. And then suddenly we were at war up a mountain at 16,000 feet, minus 20, and volcanic dust falling on us the whole time.
On a live volcano.
Well, a live volcano that eventually erupted while we were up it. So we ran
that
screaming.
Could add a frisson to
it was. I mean, literally. I mean, our lenses. We were shooting on these beautiful lights lenses. They got completely destroyed. They're better now, but thanks to insurance. But yeah, the whole place. That was the most difficult thing I've ever shot in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really, really tough for the whole crew, because it was lack of oxygen, moving around on moving volcanic gravel sand, and sort of getting up there in the morning to that in that cold was brutal. But it's a nice sort of jump cut, not a dissolve from the romantic stuff.
Yeah, the worlds apart. It's astonishing. And it looked, I mean, the silvery colour to that. I mean, was that, again, it feels like it was almost, that's what it looked like.
It is what it looked like. At the start of the film, I was filtering quite a bit, which lights, I think, are a little bit upset with me, because they went to the screening in Camera Mash and they were like, the lenses look so soft. But it's just because I had Christian 10 denier stockings on the back of the lens. And then we moved on to Tiffin glimmer glass, black glimmer glass for certain scenes. And then at the end, I just ripped everything off and we shot clean as a whistle. And we always knew that the start would have this sort of sylvan luster and warmth guided to us by the city itself. And just as soon as we got up to Etna, we wanted that lithographic black and almost monochromatic, but leaving the red. The costumes were designed specifically with that, with flecks of red to denote the blood. And the interior of the cave obviously had a little bit of candlelight in it, but we diminished everything to a more monochromatic state. And that was done with Peter Doyle, a great colorist. And Joe and I worked for 2.5 weeks with him at Delane Lee here in London. To achieve that.
Was that in prep, or was it?
Well, we talked about the look in prep, but obviously we're shooting Alexa LF. We had a wonderful dit with a Sandro Magliano, and so we had an impression of what we wanted to do. We certainly showed intent in terms of the colour, but a lot of the fine tuning of that secondary colour correction was done in a more sophisticated environment in the grade with Peter Doyle. So that's a lovely part of it, because it's after the horror of shooting that stuff, you're in a cozy suite, working away and making stuff.
You work with do you regularly work with Peter Doyle then?
I have done a few films with him now. He's absolutely brilliant. I love working with him. Yeah, he's great. But again, it was Warner Brothers was in COVID state as well, so we were stuck in a room. We couldn't have any visitors. Nobody could come in to see what we were doing, because it's really lovely when you're showing people, this is what we did today, and people have impressions of it and they give you other ideas that embellish or define it more. But it was just the three of us, and even that was breaking COVID rules. There should have only been 2 of us, but you know, it was fun for those 2.5 weeks.
So you shot LF and these lights primes, but cropped to 235. So how was there a reason why you didn't shoot anamorphic or on film?
I knew that we were going to be working in firstly in very low light for a lot of it, and a lot of candlelit scenes, exclusively candlelit. Also, we couldn't, because of COVID, we couldn't get film out and back. So we had to know that we had it in camera. So that was actually the main reason. And I love film. but it was just impractical to do it that way. So yeah, that was why the decision was made to go that direction. Also, I mean, I quite like the large format sensor, and these lenses reminded me of my sort of photography days in medium format. And I know here we have big wide angle vistas, but a lot of the film is told in close up, in portraiture, and I think it's unique to the LF or other medium format cameras, large format cameras, that lend the landscape of the face with the right lens can be very beautiful and telling, and portraiture and the voice was essential in this. So that was the main reason.
So why lights? How did that come about?
Well, me and Pete Robb and Pete Cavacciuti and Chris Edwards bought a set.
Oh, okay, right.
So we wanted to get them on the film. Otherwise, my children who are up there would have coal for Christmas, coal in their stockings. And by the way, my son Sam, who's up there, Sam, say hello. And Stella, my daughter's there. But Sam plays the little drummer boy at the end.
Oh, right.
When the guy gets shot, one of the singers gets shot, he fills in. So he valiantly starred in the film. So well done, Sam.
Well done. I think I'm almost out of my. I think we did everything. Oh, I was going to ask you about HODs. You mentioned that obviously Pete Robb with you is a familiar, but you worked with. Was your gaffer? Because there's a couple listed. Did you? It was Stefano Marino was your gaffer.
Yes, Stefano Marino, who is an absolute genius. Had worked with Cyrano. First time I had ever worked with him. A gentle, brilliant artist. And you know, normally when I'm working with gaffers, I'm quite specific about the light sources that I am, and even about the rigging and where they go. And with Stefano, I could just talk abstractly. I mean, obviously the language, because my Italian is only useful in restaurants and pubs, so I couldn't talk, you know, as artistically or as emphatically as I wanted with him. So we had just the most beautiful communication, and he's a real artist, and just, well, you can see his work there, and he kept reminding me about simplicity. So you know, I would say, well, do I need a bit of fill here? He said, you don't need fill. You know, just hit that light there, and he was a real cohort with me in light. And he and his team worked very hard. We did long hours. We had some really difficult scenarios, and he had such a balance of calmness, and it really created this wonderful equilibrium that spread amongst the whole crew. So yeah, I would love to work with any of that team again. Giorgio Pissotti was the grip, and we had one of the greatest focus pullers I've ever worked with. I thought Carlos de Carvalho was the best when he was focus pulling, but sadly now he's a DP. But this man Lele Lorini is just wonderful. I don't think there's a soft shot in the movie. I should also mention I had the great Kate Arizmendi, who's a brilliant DP, and she was directing the second unit and also shot a lot for us in second unit, and she was with us the entire time and was absolutely brilliant, and her work is so vivid across the board.
How did you work with her in terms of how did that get split?
Well, we were all just living together, so it was like every night we'd all be sitting having our meals, and the conversation was just ongoing the whole time, and if she was doing something on our set, it was right next door to us. So the sets were expansive enough and labyrinthine enough that Kate could be shooting all that lovely, languid, sexy stuff with the bakers putting their hands in pots and the allegory of those shots. They were all Kate's moments. And the beautiful writing quills. We were doing the actors, but there's all that stuff that was just so exquisitely photographed by her and directed as well.
Interesting. So that she was directing the second unit as well. So that relationship with you and with Joe,
yes,
to how to hand off or to supplement your work was interesting.
Well, it was, Kate and Haley were very close friends. They'd worked on a film together called Shallow, and Joe was one of the producers of that. So we both, and I'd been a great admirer of Kate's work anyway in the past. So we just said, look, if you're not doing, she was in Budapest, I think, and wasn't working because of COVID, and we just said, can you get in a plane, get down here somehow, if we can smuggle you into Sicily? And she was very happy to do so. So we got like one of the top DPs in the world directing and shooting our second unit.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's ask, has anybody got any questions? Hello, front row.
Congratulations, this was an absolute miracle of cinematography. I'd say the painterly aesthetic was the best since Barry Lyndon, I would say, in my humble opinion. And those tracking shots were, they were awesome.
Thank you.
Have you thought about maybe going back to 65mm film for when the conditions are right?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you, yes. In fact, I am talking with Joe about doing that for his next film. I've never shot on 65mm film, but yes, we're thinking about it. I just have to ask Charlie. He's up from Panavision. He's up there and see what can be done.
How many cameras have Panavision? How many 65 cameras? Is it 7 to 765?
I don't know, but Ari are here as well. Simon's here too. So it'll be, let's have a little fisticuffs down here. But I don't know. And, it may not be right for the project, actually, but I certainly would love to test it. And I see the next project is another period film, which I can't really talk about, but it's a really wonderful script.
I know
For a ticket.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I know you've shot Alexa 65 before, but had you used the LF before?
I had, yes. When did I use it? I'm trying to think. But I have used it before on a number of projects. And also the RA65 as well, the digital. I shot live with that.
Right.
I love the large format. Mm-hmm. I mean, and now that it's not as unwieldy when you've got the mini LF, anything is possible.
Another question. Anybody? Go on, they're free.
Hi, I just wanted to ask about the fight scene. Felt like such a kind of different shift and sort of change of pace in a really exciting way. Could you talk to us a bit about kind of the way that you decided to approach that? Was it one continuous take, or were there kind of a few secret cuts in there? Or
there were some secret cuts in there. Joe would kill me for admitting that, but it had to appear as though it were one take, and we wanted to shoot it with these torches, these flambeaux. But obviously, at close quarters with Dinklage moving them, we couldn't. The safety of that was really difficult. So I had these LED torches made, and with Giles, our VFX supervisor, we agreed that we could use these LED torches that had the handle of the flambeau, but then LED tape wrapped around the top. That was actually back to a desk, a dimmer, and the color could be adjusted and the flicker could be adjusted, and they were extremely bright. And with these things, you could actually whack somebody with them, and the thing still lives. So we had real flambeaux in the back of shot, but the ones that Dinklage was using to fight with were actually LED that were enhanced with CG flame. And occasionally we would wipe those across the lens, and that would be the cut. But it was all handheld. Pete Robb did handheld on the whole scene. I was just sitting, looking out a window from above. I'm not joking. So all the hard work, that's the thing, when you've got a great operator like Pete, once you've devised how to shoot it and what the shots might be, he really did the legwork and beautiful operating, which is, on steps, running up steps, running backwards, up steps, all that stuff is Pete Robertson magic.
So, I mean, obviously, Joe and Pete must have a relationship. In terms of how,
I think he gets the call before I do. I'm not joking.
Pete rings you.
Yeah, exactly. Pete, get me on this one, mate, would you?
Another question.
Just wanted to ask about the lighting that you were using for the close-ups. I found it was so nice to look at the skin. It was soft and beautiful. I was wondering what sources were you using and diffusion for those close-ups. I found them very attractive to look at.
Thank you. I mean, the Dior nets help a lot as well, because everything just sort of has this opalescent glow, which I love and actors love. But it was a mixture of sources. You know, in say for instance in the Palazzo where the women's reading room is, that was a bigger source. Like that was a 12 by, just a single 12 by source with an egg crate on the front. You know, cine grid type thing, but a wedge. So you know, double diffused T12 bounced tungsten. Bounced into some unbleached muslin and then through a quarter grid or something. For the smaller stuff, it was a mixture of things. Sometimes it was an octodome that would be double framed. I would hit an octodome and then just drop off a T-bar or something, just drop a silk in front of it really close, just off a frame. So you get that wrap, never any fill. In fact, negative most of the time. And rarely a backlight that was actually put in shot. I'm not a great fan of backlight, unless somebody's standing at a doorway and you know, the light was coming from the doorway. For indoors, again, because of the space limitations, it was perhaps, you know, just a little 650, like double diffused. And we occasionally used, again for space, in these real spaces, like Astera tubes, which I'm just in love with now, and I've used them for the first time on this film, but I didn't even know about those, because I just normally light with tungsten. So the gaffer introduced these to me, and they were just a godsend in these places to put behind doorways and just to hide. So yeah, that was it really. There's no real... usually, you know, I'd bring the light a bit higher, and I love eye light. So if the key light is close enough and broad enough, then that becomes your eye light. But if it doesn't, I'll always add a little piece of silver underneath the lens or something that when an actor turns to one side or another, there's something still living in the eye to spark emotion or see their intelligence. I mean, and I always guide the actor that way. I say, look, there's a funny wee light, bounce there. If you go there, it looks amazing. And sometimes I'll actually record it, get video to record it and show them what it does. Not to get them too thinking about technical things, because Joe loves to shoot actors almost like wildlife photography, so that there's nobody around. It's very measured and quiet on set, which I love as well. You know, it's a sacred, sancted zone, and you can't have people joking. Joe hates overt noise or people messing around or saying what they did the night before. So yeah, but sometimes it's nice to alert them to certain technical things. Like if you walk into like that, you'll feel the light there in half your face. And some actors are good at it, and some you just know not to ask them, because they'll labour over that. But some people just do it naturally, and that's wonderful when you work with an actor who's cinema savvy and they can make your photography look 10 times better.
Craft it is a stagecraft, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Not that you can remember any of the details of your lighting. I mean, that was a full kit list in there. That's amazing. Fantastic.
I made it up. I think I did it with a 10K. No. No, that was the truth. That was how we did it.
Brilliant. Oh, no, yes, the stair as well. Yes, I think I'm not sure how I could not work without them anymore.
Yeah, and although we were doing a period film, I wasn't adverse to working with modern LED lighting. I think that the color science is good enough now that we can do that, and the lights are amazing right now.
There's a speed and control.
Yeah,
because you can have the control here and be controlling everything in this.
Yeah,
it is fantastic.
Yeah, just that we had a great dimmer board operator and sitting there on either a mobile phone or an iPad, and just that incremental after a rehearsal, you realise the actor is a little bit closer to your source, and you just say knock it down 10% or whatever, and to be able to do that instead of getting onto the set and lancing the kind of the atmosphere by your presence. You know what's going on here in between take 2 and 3. You just you're just constantly looking at stuff, and you don't interrupt with your lighting flouncing.
Fiddling.
Yeah, fiddling. I try not to fiddle.
Yes. Another question, Nick.
I'll hold it. Hello.
Can't touch this.
You've got to hold it. Okay.
Happy birthday,
That's a bottle
Nick.
of beer gone.
Is it your birthday? Oh.
It's Nick's birthday at the weekend.
Just how you work with the artist, the director, the set, to find your camera and your light directions. I get a kind of sense that you're somebody who likes being on what I call the darker side of the of the person whenever possible.
Yeah.
How do you work that when you're on set, when you're setting up, when you're rehearsing a scene, when you're laying it out, all that kind of stuff? Can you talk a bit about that for us?
Yeah, I mean, there's a premeditation that happens with Joe, particularly the day before and the morning of, where a shot list is made, and you've got an idea of what the trajectory of the day is, and the sequence of shots. And Joe's very keen on using shots like words, like a writer would use words, so it's not just coverage. So we always think about that, and we've obviously known the location where we photograph it and think about it and talk about it way in advance. But then things happen obviously on the day, on the rehearsal, the very important rehearsal time that you have, which I think your whole day is made in that half hour or 45 minutes in the morning. That's why you have to be ultra alert and open to the ideas, and sometimes things change, sometimes dramatically actually. But I go into a space and look at the actors kind of trying to find it. But at the same time, it's like little dolphin clicks that you have to give to people, as you're saying, the kind of like, no. Or I remember Eduardo Serra, this DP that I used to assist, and he used to actually put flag stands in areas that he didn't want the actor to go on. So they just clutter the place with flag stands so that they wouldn't veer off into front-lit territory. And he would just sit where the camera would be, and if an actor was moving around, he'd kind of more or less sheepdog them back into place. So I learned from him that there's a certain amount of wordless sort of guiding, or I don't want to say the wrong word, but where you can really kind of coach the way that things are going to end up, and the director also knows that too. So
I was going to say, how sensitive is Joe to that in terms
very
of
much so. It's a real dance.
I want to do it here with all this.
Yeah, I mean, it is actually a little dance where you're sort of, I mean, sheepdogging is really a good technique, because it's like, and then you're over there, and gradually they get, the actor, if they're sensitive to you, will get a sense of where you're thinking the camera's going to be. And Joe's the same, although he's looking at performance. And then you actually sit and talk about it physically, and the actor says, no, I want to go there, and then you go, well. So it's always a diplomatic jaunt or a little dance between where you think it'll look best and where the actor wants to go, and eventually you reach some sort of compromise. and then it's 6:30 at night and you haven't shot the wide shot yet.
There were some wonderful tableaus, some of those wide tableaus with lots of people, and the way you brought the light across those was absolutely glorious, really Renaissance sort of feel to it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and there was some absolutely stunning work, thank you.
Well, it's good when you're working with a very brilliant first AD as well. There you are as cinematographers, cohorts and helpers, and Ben's very good at background and about how the people move around, and did that very closely with Joe. But he's also somebody who really respected that, because you know how many times you just see out of the corner of your eye the AD tapping their watch, and Ben knows he knows the currency of time, and when that money, that is time, should be spent. And he knows that I'm not sort of overindulgent when it comes to, I work very fast, I've got to say, because I don't know how to do it complicated. So it tends to happen quite quick. But he knows that when you're setting up a wide shot, or if it is complicated, it might take, I'll have to say it, and look, it's going to take me 45 minutes or an hour to set this up. I never had a second thought about it. And that was great, to be able to have the confidence, well, for me to have the confidence in spending that time and not freaking out thinking we've got to get this ready in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And it made the difference for the whole day. And then everything else sort of follows. Once you've got that wide done, everything else sort of naturally falls into it, I find, anyway. But I'm not saying it was all fun and games. It was like there were some arguments we had, but that's the other lovely thing about working with friends, is that you can never to be afraid of having an argument, not an argument, a stand-up argument, but to cogitate over a conundrum is something that you must never shy away from, I find, as a DP, and to really get into it, because if people are not happy or disappointed with the direction you're going, you'll be reshooting it basically the next day or a week later. Yeah.
Nick's got more.
One more little one, like a 4.
You've had your go.
Working with Vittorio's a gaffer who worked with Vittorio. Vittorio's got that kind of simplicity, and you can't have more than 4 sources or more than 4 lights on your set. Do you have a bit of that kind of going on, that just try to keep it really simple and one directional?
Exactly. I mean, definitely. I mean, I always try to light simply, and I look back on films when I was starting out, and they're so full of like me trying to sort of show off, and now I walk into a room and I say, if I open that shutter, what would the sun be doing? And I think audiences respond to that naturalism, but what we do obviously is interfere with naturalism and enhance it and embellish it and create a sense of naturalism and maybe tune it up a notch or two. But essentially the light is coming from where it ought to. I mean, I love films like that when I see that in a film, I'm drawn in as an audience member. I'm sort of locked into the story, and I just don't think about the artifice, and that really helps the story to flow into me.
That's interesting. That is interesting. Honestly, it is. I mean, it's the. I mean, I find myself, I'm trying way too hard, with trying to backlight and putting lots and lots of stuff in. But you're right, it's absolutely the motivation in the room, and that's I think is part of scouting and spending time in the spaces that you're in.
Yes.
Because then you can see what even if you do some paths, and see how it falls. And then you said, like you say, he's worked with the first AD.
Yeah.
So you can be in kind of the right place at the right time.
And the same is true of night shots as well. I used to light the living daylights out of it, and it literally did look like living daylight, not night. and when you actually go under and actually, that's why I love digital. I love film, but I love digital because I got all my grey hair on film, lighting night scenes, and phoning Deluxe and Technicolor in the morning, and being told there's not a sausage on the on the negative.
No more.
No.
Not so much.
I've done I mean, I still shoot on film. I did Bad Times at El Royale. That was the last time I was here.
Yeah.
And that was on film. But, you know, I think I'd like to go back and do some more celluloid.
Of course. Any more questions? Oh, hello.
Hello. So, talking about naturalism, how much do you have to adapt your camera work to Italian architecture, or how much do you have to adapt the architecture through art department with your cinematography?
Well, it was, you know, working in a Baroque town like Noto, the frustration for me was that you'd set your level on the camera and you want rectitude, and it just does not exist in those Italian cities with the earthquake after earthquake and the settling of 450 years of sedimentary, you know, ground. So that was a slight frustration, but I sort of went with all those kind of errant angles, and you know, so that was a help. The lovely thing that I learnt about the way the light works was about how beautiful the shadows are, you know, and it's the rebounded light that I was really attracted by, that I hadn't really. Like, I grew up in Armagh, Northern Ireland, where we were lucky to get a sunny day on a summer's day once or twice. So I've always lit with kind of soft and slightly colourless light. So this is the first time I've done something where the key in the exteriors had warmth, and I was not shying away from overexposure in certain areas of the frame and letting the burnout happen, because I think that digital is a little bit more sophisticated now and can handle even though a little bit more range. I mean, on film it would have been exquisite in those highlights, but that was something that Noto and Sicily taught me.
You said you did it. The DI was 2.5 weeks or so.
Yes.
Did you? Was there much VFX work?
There was a lot of VFX work. In fact, at the end of the movie, up Mount Etna, we initially were going to shoot up much higher, and we had the scene which was in the cave with the guys was going to be an exterior using a 75-foot techno, and it was on a platform, and we had little areas all on this black sand. And while we were shooting down in Noto, there was a horrific snowstorm, and our 75-foot techno got completely buried. It later got covered in lava as well. So sorry, Panelux Italia, but they lost a techno crane up there. It's, you know, different generations, 1,000 years from now might discover it and wonder what this artifact was. It's probably
what a strange dinosaur.
Yeah, exactly. But we ended up shooting a lot further down, which was more comfortable. But it was in full snow. But occasionally, because the mountain is so we arrive and start shooting in the morning where it had been snowing during the day, and it was actually snowing. But because Etna is actually hot, I mean, if you put your hand in the dirt, even when it's -20, it's hot, like 15 centimeters down. So the snow would quickly melt. So there was a lot of VFX work to replace snow, and also to add little flecks of snow after the event to match, so that the shots would match each other.
Was there any cleanup in Noto, or was it? I mean, in terms of
very little. Like,
I mean,
I'm sure
as it is.
It's kind of as it is. There were maybe some aerials removed and some little electrical boxes and that sort of thing, but very little. If you ever want to go, it's absolutely beautiful city. Yeah, and the people there are amazing, and they were
there
so
have had
helpful.
enough.
They've had enough of. No, they were, because I think they were glad to have us there, and I think that I know that the mayor, Bonfanti, is very happy with the film and seen it.
It's
had
super
a screening
sympathetic.
there.
It's hardly gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it may attract people to that city, and to Catania and to Syracuse, where the fort was, which we had great fun shooting as well.
And Mount Etna, obviously.
On Mount Etna, indeed.
Any more questions?
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, I really enjoyed the movie. So I just wanted to ask you, because I know that you went to film school in the University of Westminster, and me and my friend, we are in first year in film school at Westminster as well. So I wanted to ask you how your experience was, and what do you believe that is needed to take a dream and become a reality, and do what you love?
Oh, that's a lovely question. You might know my friend Boris Lee, who's studying there. Give him my best if you see him. Well, I remember the first day I came here. It was in Riding House Street, and we had some lectures in here, and the excitement of being there and being amongst artists and thinking, I can never be a cinematographer, but I'm going to make a damn good go of it. And I just, I had great tutors who were there, but also visiting tutors like Jacek Petryski. And I just sort of drank up all the knowledge that they had to offer. And sometimes you disagree with your tutors. But I was very lucky as well. I had a part-time job down at the ICA. And, I got to see all these independent films because I was tearing tickets at the Cinematech. But those discussions, it's good to disagree with your tutors. It's good to, use your time at college. That's why I feel so nostalgic coming back to this place, because it's Polytechnic. It was the Polytechnic of Central London where I studied. It was called that then. But I just remember the shiver of being in the city as well, because I came from Armagh, and suddenly I was 17, 18 here in London City, and just, that became my slingshot towards being a cinematographer. And it took a while. I was a painter and decorator for 3 or 4 years before I got a lucky break. But just use your time at college to experiment, to let your imagination run wild, to do things that you can't do in the world of the more commercial world when you leave and you're working as cinematographers. Just let your imagination run riot and befriend your fellow students, because they're going to be your cohorts for the rest of your careers. And you'll always be sort of knocking off each other's ideas and working with each other and recommending each other for jobs. That sort of fundamental sort of foundation of friendship that you establish at film school will serve you for the rest of your careers.
Very wise words. Any more questions? One more question. Oh, hang on. No, there's more. There's loads more.
Hi, thank you so much for today. I'm also a film student, so I apologize if this is ignorant, but how often were you using real sunlight versus recreating that? And I think you mentioned something about the process of seeing how the sunlight would fall and then sort of recreating that in a sense.
Yeah, well, most of the sunlight on the interiors was created, but obviously inspired by the real sun on a particular day that we visited. A lot of it, we had to control it. We had to sort of block the sunlight because obviously there's continuity to think about. And a scene like the one in the Blue Room with De Guiche and Roxanne takes pretty much half a day to shoot, something like that. So you've got to have the continuity of light. So we had a cherry picker outside, and we actually had another cherry picker to block out the sun as it came around. So, but it's done in the spirit of natural light, but it's not quite natural light. The exteriors that we had in the courtyard outside were Cyrano's writing, and it's all dusty with flour, and Ragano is trying to write his poetry. When we were there, the harsh Sicilian light I just knew I had to control it. So we actually built cables over the top and silked, sorry, that's just coming on and off, but we silked off the whole yard. And that was easy to do. It wasn't sometimes that's difficult to do in a windy environment, but it just gave us the control so that throughout the day, even when we're inside looking out, we had a diffused. There was no hard sunlight that I was trying to control and work with.
So once you put that silk up, did you then put in your hard light?
Yes. So once the silk was up, which was on the first floor of the building, it was probably at the height of these. I basically had an 18K outside, and that was our source. And I think that, obviously the close-ups we lit, but for the wide stuff, that was our only source. And it just, whatever happened in the room happened. So yeah, it's lovely when you actually do that and you've got lovely walls like that just bounce back. You hit a cold light like an 18K on a wall that's 450 years old and you go, God, the light's lovely in here.
Did you use a lot of smoke?
I did actually, and it's something that's
not a bad thing.
Pain. No, I love smoke occasionally, and I've started using it more and more. But Peter Doyle, the colorist, was grizzling at me a lot because he said in the theatre, which was an open air theatre that we built, Sarah Greenwood built, but we had smoke there, but obviously the levels change, and day by day, sometimes the wind takes it away. But it in the interiors, you just see it sort of all escaping. It's like it's like a cigar ad sometimes when you see all the smoke escaping, but it's necessary, and we wanted a definite softening effect, both in filtration, in light, and with diffusion in the atmosphere. So most scenes had diffusion.
It's the never-ending control of that level, though. You have to have a good team.
No, we had a brilliant. Oh my God, the special effects team were amazing. And once I said, "Look, that's our level. Can you control it?" And they were like, "Well, you can't control smoke," but they did try to. Yeah, it was a bit like that, but they were brilliant. They were brilliant. They also, when we were up the mountain in Mount Etna, we had not the smoke machine of smoke machines, like a Bezier, which is basically a military fogger, and you just, once that thing took off, it just created this mist. All that mist was ours. Oh, really? Yeah, and it's beautiful. And actually, the Bezier was used for the first time in the Bay of Naples in Napoleonic times, and as a sort of as a screening device from the Navy. Yeah.
And what colour is? And it's white, but it's white.
It's sort of warm white, but we were pulling a lot of the colour out of it.
There was more questions.
It smells bad too.
Thanks. In the scene, the bakery scene, I think it's either dusk or dawn. I felt the lighting was absolutely stunning, the blue. Could you run us through kind of how you created that?
Yeah, well, we wanted it cool. We'd already shot the wide shot of Cyrano walking up, and we shot that at dawn, so it naturally had a cooler ambience from the top. So I just wanted to emulate that in the set. That was actually it was a shop further up that street, and we had a lot of debate in the grade about that, because I lit it with cooler sources, and we chopped the top of it, and it was very soft and ambient, and it was actually initially a little bit darker, and Joe just reacted against the blue. He said that people just look dead, and this is about poetry and love and light. And I said, well, but it's the dawn, and then we're going to go. The scene is going to develop downstairs, and it's going to get warmer and warmer and warmer and warmer. But we went back and forth in the grade. Joe said, pull it all out. I don't want to see the blue. He doesn't like that hue. But eventually, it got back in there, and this is just a little hint of it. So it's pretty much as it was now.
Any more questions?
Oh. Thank you. You've been talking a lot about softening the light and being inspired by the harsh Sicilian sunlight, and then using the idea of naturalism to bring it to a camera. Is this something that's specific to this project, or is that something that you try to do for? Is that a personal style, or is that a choice for this project? And if so, what's the reasoning there?
Well, it was a choice for this project. It is my natural bent, although there are some projects that I've worked on that are more overt, that allow for that. The theatricality of Anna Karenina, for instance, or The Greatest Showman, allows for a more jumped up theatrical style. But Joe was very keen, although this was a period film, and although it's a musical, and although they're all in fancy period costumes, he wanted a sense of veracity. He wanted it to be a film about love, and he wanted people to identify with it in contemporary sort of times. As an
The person you heard sobbing.
Oh, was it? Oh, thank you. I love crying. I only cry in planes because I've usually had a glass of wine on a plane when I watch that little monitor, and I can watch a comedy and cry. I'm glad that you were moved by some of the film. We were trying to do that as well, but yeah, we just wanted it to have a sense of believability, and for an audience to think that, you know, this is something that is the universal trials of love and lost love and yearning for love, that we can all identify with as an audience, and opting for a naturalistic style kind of doesn't deflect, the period doesn't deflect those emotions, hopefully.
Fantastic. Oh, there's two up there.
I've got two questions. The shot of Roxanne coming through the curtain with the letters flying, where did that come from? Was that from a reference, or did you create that in the moment?
No, it was one of those things, again, we used to go to this beach on the weekends, and I think Joe and I were just talking, and I'd had this idea that came from the set, because we were messing around on the set, and and then I mentioned it to Joe, and then Joe said, "Oh, let's try that. And that's when the letters in the air came from. He said, "Well, if we threw the letters in the air, there's meaning to that. It's not just a flatulent shot of her just walking through. It has to be something that has a sort of poetic entirety to it." So by making it more specifically dreamlike, with the letters flying through and shooting it at slow motion. And then Hayley, acted it out. She sort of demonstrated it on the day of, and we shot it. But it's a shot that a few people have identified as being something that stuck with them. But again, that's the beautiful thing about working with Joe, that sort of democracy of ideas, that he can absorb ideas and deflect them, and ultimately sort of put them through his sort of portal of directorship. But nobody feels proprietorial over an idea. It's very much part of our sort of communistic, troop.
Is he receptive to that then? I mean,
yes, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, very much so. In fact, demands it.
Right.
So that's what's lovely. He's not possessive over his own ideas either, which is lovely coming from such a talented filmmaker. It's great. You really feel like you're able to contribute in a very specific way, so that you look at stuff in the film and I think, well, I can remember when that idea crystallized
between you.
Yeah, between everybody.
Amazing. Oh, there's
and then there's quite a lot of range in the films that you've shot. How do you choose your next project?
I'm not choosy. That's the terrible thing. I can't afford to be. So I love gigging. I just love if I read a script and I love it. If it's the next one coming, I'll do it. And excuse me. So that's my conscience trying to choke me. But no, I love making films, and I just we've a finite time being able to make them, and careers can be truncated, and it's a fickle industry. So I just the joy of making films makes me just want to keep on as long as people ask me.
I think we can all identify with that.
Yeah, yeah. It's great fun being on a film set. I mean, I just love it. I love every second of it, except the last one. Not this one, rather.
It's been a mad couple of, 18 months, 2 years. Everyone is, it's just a very strange time. What is next for you? Are you taking some time out? Or
Yes, I am. I'm taking some time out. I'm trying to do the occasional commercial to keep the wolf from the door, or the wolf from my children's door, and just see what comes up next. There's a few things maybe in the offing, but nothing specifically yet. But I'm really enjoying having a bit of time off. It's just really unusual for me. Well, actually, I've had 2 years off now, pretty much. But yeah, time to get back to work.
Brilliant. Well, there's not much more to say. Seamus McGarvey, ASC BSC.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.